going to introduce you to Chef Abby. So Abby has Cooking with Abby, which is right in Norwell. So if you end up loving this, you might want to check out her website and go to one of her classes. Abby's driving passion, unifying her personal and professional life, has always been cooking. In 2014, she decided to close her gourmet and event planning business and go to culinary school, following her heart into the kitchen. With a lifelong history of catering and entertaining professionally and privately, she had a deep love for feeding the people. Abby decided to create Cooking with Abby in 2015 to build her company from a formal grounding in culinary skills. Abby went to college and graduated from BU Culinary School after 500 hours of instruction. Abby has traveled extensively throughout the world seeking culinary adventures. Again, Cooking with Abby is a cooking school and a private chef company holding weekly cooking classes, private lessons, kitchen and pantry appointments, private meals, and events. And to find out more about Cooking with Abby, you can visit her website, cookingwithabby.com. So without any more ado.
Thanks, Zoe. Well, thank you. It's lovely to be here tonight. I think NSTV is taping this, so I'm mic'd. I'm sure you can hear me anyways, but let me know if you need me to speak up. My assistant, Jonah, he actually was a student of mine, and he was so good, I said, come work for me on your gap year. So I'm Abby, which Zoe was saying, and I have my cooking school here in Norwell. I love cooking classes, and I said to the universe last year, because after COVID, I didn't have people in my home and cooking classes for a while, and I was sad because I love the interaction and the classes are so much fun, and I love to see people learn new things. And what most people like are the hacks. They like all the pro hacks, and then just the tips of making healthy and yummy food for yourself is one way to stay healthy and know what you're eating, and prepare things for your family and those you love and yourself. So when Zoe and I were talking, we thought, people love to order in Chinese food, and I think that, or Thai food, or Japanese food, Asian food, but I often find it's kind of like gelatinous, like there's a lot of, like the sauces are too heavy, and there's a ton of salt in Chinese food, and there's plenty of good Chinese restaurants. I'm not trying to say there aren't, but when you make your own versions of the dishes you love, you will not believe the taste difference. And one of those, I think, is Kung Pao Chicken, because people love Kung Pao Chicken. It was like, I don't know, I Googled at one point a few years ago, it's like the #1 ordered dish at Chinese restaurants. Yeah. And so I thought, oh, okay, we'll make that. And then I did a TV show or something with this guy who created very strong peppery oils for Asian cooking, and it's called 50 Hertz, and I forgot to bring them because I can't find them, quite frankly. I think I need new ones, but they're so hot, you have to use them very limited, so I wouldn't actually have you taste them, but you add a drop or two to your sauce and they really change things. But what he put me onto was this cookbook by Fuchsia Dunlop, and I have, you might want to get this, Zoe. I have 800 plus cookbooks, and I do follow a bunch of different chefs in different cultures because there's some really good ones out there who I learn from. And she's one of them. And this book is just beautiful for recipes. So if you like to cook Chinese and this is in Szechuan style, so there's many different styles of Chinese cooking. Szechuan is one of my favorites, but this book is beautiful, and it really will give you a lot of great recipes. I think doable recipes is what I want to get across, because people often sometimes see lists of ingredients and they're like, forget it. So that's a good guide to start with. The other thing is if you Google recipes, and we'll get cooking in a second, but this actually doesn't take that long. So if you Google recipes, you want to see that there's a lot of reviews and that they're a trusted source, because the main thing about recipes is that they're tested. So I'm writing a cookbook. God knows when I'm going to finish that. And I've been writing it for years. So my family just jokes that, of course, we're going to get the cookbook at some point. But the thing is about the cookbook is that, well, first of all, I create lots of things and then I forget to write them down. So there's that. And of the ones I have written down, you have to keep testing them. So I send them out to friends to test them, and clients and people who come in, because you want to make sure that they work for other people and they're well understood. A recipe is written, you may know this, you all might be great cooks, in the way that you use the ingredients. So I also say, Zoe was talking about the movie Brigade, and the gentleman, the French gentleman, Auguste Escoffier, there's actually an Auguste Escoffier Society and school in the States, but he is a gentleman. It's very interesting, the history of the kitchen and the French history of how things started. Like, he's the one who started table service and buffet service and the brigade of which you speak, because if you're in a kitchen and working in a commercial kitchen, you're in a brigade, and you all have a job, and there's all a head chef, and there's the sous chef and the chef de garni, and the dishwasher's all part of it, and you would be my sous chef, right? Yeah, saucier. Oh, the saucier. The saucier is my fave. That's my next thing. I'm going to Paris to saucier school. I love sauces, and I threaten my husband every week that I'm going to saucier school. So, okay, so back to Kung Pao Chicken. And after this, by the way, if you have any other cooking questions or you want to ask me anything that I can maybe answer, we can just do Q&A afterwards, no problem. So we'll start with Kung Pao Chicken. So we're going to make this. I prepared the chicken at home, one, because I didn't want chicken pieces flying all over the library, and I'm very, very careful with chicken. So I bought organic breasts today. I couldn't find chicken tenders. For this recipe, it's great if you buy, hi, welcome, hi. It's great if you buy chicken tenders, because they're kind of the perfect length, and you want to cut them in 1-inch chunks. And I do like to talk. I don't like to hear my own voice, but I do like to tell you the reason for things. So with the 1-inch pieces, you always want to cut the food so that it is, first of all, so that it looks beautiful, and also so that a person can put it into their mouth, and it's not, you don't have to go through too many steps. So that's why often, especially in Asian dishes, we cut it so that you can just eat it with your chopsticks or your fork. So I cut this into 1-inch pieces today, and I marinated it in. How do you say that, Jonah? I never say that correctly. Shaoxing wine? Shaoxing. So it's called Shaoxing wine, and I can butcher any language except the English language I'm pretty good with. Or dry sherry or white vinegar. And I ran out of sherry, so I used white vinegar today. Light soy sauce. So I use a reduced sodium. So anytime I can reduce sodium, I do. It's funny because sometimes you have to add salt to bring out the flavor in things, but when you're adding like fresh sea salt, I feel like that's a little bit better than using products that are just so laden in salt, and typically Asian products are, but you'll also see that these are not very big amounts. So we're using 1 tablespoon, but I tripled this recipe. So I have lots of chicken so everybody can get a decent tasting. I have lots of chicken, so I tripled this, but if you are making it for your family, you would use 1 tablespoon of the white vinegar or sherry. I'd say use the sherry because it's a little sweeter and it adds a little more to the caramelization of the chicken because it's got that little bit of sugar in it. And it's just an ode to my grandmother who liked to serve sherry at 4 p.m. Light soy sauce, baking soda, and cornstarch. And the cornstarch is just to thicken it a bit and give it a nice glaze. So I marinated it. I did this probably at 2 o'clock. And we'll keep that in case we need that. And so I was saying I usually buy organic chicken. You want free range, organic, kosher chicken's good. You want chickens that have been treated well. And one of the things that I learned in culinary school, which I thought was so interesting, is I had to butcher a lamb, and I thought, I am not the person to butcher a lamb. But at the end of the day, I had to butcher a lamb in culinary school, and it was so interesting because the people who came in to talk to us about this, there was the farmer, there was the slaughterhouse, there was the actual butcher, and they talked about, and the chef, and one of the chefs who was teaching us, and the chain of integrity and how the animal is treated and how important it was that the animals were treated well. So, because they're creating food for humans, so it's really important to kind of know where your food's from. I'll get off my soapbox, but okay. So chicken, just cut in 1 inch, and you'll see that this little marinade. I'll just show it to you just so you know what it looks like. It really it makes a lot. So it's coated, and then there's juice in the bottom, which is what you want, but you don't want it floating in it, okay? If it floats in it, it breaks it down too much because you have vinegar and you have, what's the other thing in there, Jonah? Vinegar and soy sauce. Yeah, so that breaks down the tendons of the chicken, which is great, which is what you want to do for a little while, but you don't want it to become kind of mealy and fall apart. One other thing before we start cooking and before I open them, is anybody have a peanut allergy? Okay, because then we can do peanuts on top if you want to. I just didn't want to serve it. I didn't want to open the peanuts if we had an allergy. Okay, so I'm going to start sauteing the chicken. I'm going to have Jonah here. He is great. We are going to cut, so I'll talk about the sauce in a minute, but then this is a 3-part recipe. So we have the chicken, we have the sauce, which we'll make, and you'll see again, it's very little sauce, but it makes a decent amount. And then the stir fry. And for the stir fry, that's what I forgot, but that's all right, I can use the oil. So you use garlic, ginger, run red bell pepper, and green bell pepper. Chilies. Now I didn't bring the chilies because sometimes I think they're too hot. If you want to add heat, I add red pepper chili flakes to this particular recipe. If you want to use the chilies, you may. I mean, they're at, I didn't see them today at Market Basket, but they are, excuse me, at the Asian market, and usually Market Basket has it. So you can add them, but I suggest that you taste them and make sure that they work for you. Then we have peppercorns, the green onion, the roasted unsalted peanuts, and sesame oil as for the stir fry. So we do it in 3 parts. We're going to start with, I'm going to saute chicken. And Jonah, we're going to get that nice and hot. And Jonah is going to dice these peppers and the green onions for our stir fry. And I'm using, no, so I'm using my wok because my friend for her birthday the other night, she wanted Kung Pao Chicken. I've made this like 4 times this week for some reason. She wanted Kung Pao Chicken for her birthday, and I had 15 people over for dinner. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my wok out. And I thought, oh, of course, it's like the perfect size. It's seasoned. So I used that. But you could use a big frying pan. I wouldn't use a cast iron pan for this. I would use a coated pan for this. A nice frying pan of Calphanon or something like that. Or you could use a Le Creuset. You just want to make sure you oil it. The wok is perfect. If you have a wok, it is perfect. Because the other thing you can do is you can get, is this smoke okay? All right, we'll see. We'll see. What kind of oil was that, Abby? That's sesame oil. So you could use vegetable oil, but because I'm not going to let this smoke for too long, whenever you want to kind of calm down your heat, you just take it off the heat actually, but you want to hear that sizzle. And just because we're here, whoops, I'm going to turn this off for a second, grab that. I'm going to turn off the heat for a minute because the pan got hot and I don't want to call the fire department. I'm going to turn it back on. So what we do, so with the wok, like you see, you can layer it on the round part of it, and you don't have to crowd the pan. You don't really want to crowd the pan. You don't want to dump all the chicken in. You want to do it in batches, and you want to brown it. You'll see it'll get a nice caramelization on it because of the various liquids. Keep the heat high, but not like crazy hot. You want it high so it browns, but you don't want it to burn because you've got some sugar in there. So you know how it can get too burnt? You don't want it to get too burnt. And it should come off the side. So the rule is you have cold meat, hot pan. And usually I only turn it once, but in a wok I kind of flip it and let it do its thing. Okay, I'm just nervous about I hope it'll be fine. Hopefully there's enough air in here. So whenever you can loosen it with a little bit of water, or in the sauce I'm going to use some chicken stock. So can you open that for me? So when you have something, you know, like when you're making a sauce or you have chicken and maybe you're making a French sauce and you pour a little wine in and scrape up the brown bits, just use a little bit of the liquid that you're using to cook with. In this instance, I use a little bit of chicken stock because I want it to be moist, but I don't want to add more oil, if that makes sense. You can also add a little water. So funny cooking in not your kitchen, because you're like, in my studio I have like everything known to man. The only thing I always say is when you take your show on the road, you got to make sure you brought the entire show. Okay, so I want this to get a little bit browner. So I'm going to add a little sugar. Now I'm going to add a little sugar to the stir fry, but I'm going to add a little sugar right now to the chicken. And like when you're caramelizing onions, if you add a little sugar, it kind of forces it, or you can add balsamic vinegar. So this is a catering burner that doesn't get quite as hot as my big burner, so it takes a minute extra. And I always say, don't I always say, you have to have patience? You have to have patience to cook because you have to wait for things to cook. Jonah's doing a nice job there. Does anybody want to know anything about cutting or chopping? I will say this, if you see when he's done, all of his pieces are pretty uniform. And you want to cut things evenly. Again, it's for presentation, because if I serve you a beautiful dish with everything beautifully cut, and then I've cut it like in big chunks, and your friend is like, what the heck do I have in my dish? So you want everything to look the same. And also, again, you want it to be easy to put in your mouth. Okay, so this is pretty good. The only thing I did I bring a, Zoe, do you happen to have a bowl in the kitchen? Or a pan, or just something I forgot to bring an extra bowl. So then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna do this in probably 2 batches. And the number one other thing I have, because I have a lot of friends who kill chicken, like they cook it to death. They think that by cooking it an extra hour, it's gonna somehow save their life. And it's so dry. So I always say, if you want really good moist chicken, just temp it. And if you temp it to 165, it's done. Like you don't have to keep cooking or do anything else. So I know, I'm just gonna let that dry. Yeah, so you put it like right into the middle. So don't like put it down so it touches the pan. Right through the center. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect. Look at you. Right? It's just a little breadcrumb. Won't hurt anybody. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. Oh, sure. Sorry about that. I just want to I just want to show you the ingredients. So you can see Jonah cutting. So one thing, hold on. I'll put this in and then I'll show you a trick. Sure. Just put it right there, yeah. Jonah, you want to show them how you hold your knife?
So the way I hold it, the way I taught it, is to have your index finger, what's this called? Like the neck of the knife?
Well, yeah, like the base of the knife.
Yeah. So if
Here, want your thumb really down there. You do.
just like right up here, you want a lot of control in there. Yeah, you can control it very well. Go back to where I have to use my whole wrist instead of just two fingers.
So you're like shaking the knife's hand. And we can show you in a while, in the brigade, when you're in the kitchen, you have to call out that you have a knife. So when you're walking through the kitchen, you say knife, knife, knife. And how you hold your knife is a safety feature. So everything in the kitchen is for safety, efficiency, and taste. So you hold your knife that way because also if you get startled, you tend to just go out with your hand, but if you hold it loosely, like just at the base of the handle, you tend to jerk. And that's how people got hurt. So this August guy was very smart. All right, so I'm going to put in a little more chicken stock. So you don't want to put in too much because you want it to evaporate, and if you put in too much, it won't brown at all. We want it to brown. I'm just going to take this away because this is now dirty. And I, of course, brought my apron. I like cut off one of the strings by accident, and no matter what, I should just throw it out. But I bring it. So it's like the shortest tie in the back. And no one looks good on TV in a white coat, by the way. So when you see this, you can say, I saw her in person. Okay. Yeah, so I'll show you how to temp. But this is a chunk of chicken. You know, if you have a breast or chicken, don't go directly to the bone on a full size chicken because if you hit the bone, it probably will give you the wrong temp. You want to be at the thickest part of the meat. So this is an instant read thermometer. I bring this because in public and in private, I always make sure chicken and certain dishes are to temp. And like I said, chicken should be at 165. So the other thing, I'm going to let this caramelize for a minute. I'm going to put a little bit of sugar on. Rice. So Chinese rice, basmati rice, sticky rice. Oh, there's so many rices. But what you're going to taste tonight is I do a parboiled rice for this. Why? Because it comes out perfect every single time. So people always say, can I buy parboiled rice? And I usually order it from my supplier. But today at the store I said you can, and I always say you can buy parboiled rice, but I didn't want to be a liar. So I went out and you can in fact buy parboiled rice. So rice is 2 to 1, you know, 2 cups, you double it. So if you have 2 cups of rice, you have 4 cups of water. Or I use chicken stock. So I use kind of stock if I was making a beef stock and if I was making a beef stew and using rice instead of noodles or something, I use a beef stock. Vegetarian, vegan, use vegetable. Vegetable stock, nice anyways. Bone broth, so good for you. But if you're making chicken dishes, use chicken stock. Chicken stock is so good for you anyways. It has many amazing properties for good health. And so I always saute, I put in, when I'm making the rice for a Chinese dish, I put a little bit of either coconut oil or sesame oil in the pan. And I'll show you how the rice looks before I serve it to you. And I then let it get nice and hot, and then I put my rice in. I coat the rice. You only need to make it glistening on the bottom of the pan. You don't need a cup or even a fourth of a cup. You just make it glisten. And then you add your rice and toss it with your wooden spoon and get your rice all tossed in the oil. And then your pan's gonna be beautifully hot. And then you add in your chicken stock. And it's really great. You get it to a full boil when you use parboiled rice. Full boil, really boiling. Turn it off, put the lid on, and forget about it while you cook your chicken. It will be perfect, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so these are getting nice and cooked. Let me see what temperature they are. Let's see. That one's 136, so that's not cooked through. That's 122. Now the reason I'm not worried about that, 139, these aren't totally cooked through. You're not going to see me bite into it because it's going to finish cooking in the sauce. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to just put this in here. Okay, we'll take a break from the cooking. We'll let the smoke die down because I don't think we have much more smoke. Do you have any questions about the cutting or anything you want to ask? Go ahead.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
The parboiled rice, can you tell us what that name of it was?
Oh, this is a Goya parboiled rice, but you'll see that it's a little, there's different brands. Like I said, I order one from a supply. I get like a 10-pound box of rice or 20-pound box of rice. But this is it's called Golden Parboiled Rice. Yeah, any regular grocery store. So you can, it's nice to have because it's really easy and it doesn't stick together. Now, I know some people, you want sticky rice. So, I mean, if your sticky rice is your thing and you're making a sticky rice dish, don't use my parboiled rice. But I like it to be nice and fluffy. So, okay, so now we're gonna make our sauce. Jonah. I can actually see this. Okay, so we're going to use 1/2 cup of chicken stock. I'm going to open this all the way now. So I make my own chicken stock half the time. I buy chicken stock, but I try to buy, when I buy it, again, I try to buy less sodium. So I've been watching my blood pressure. It's very interesting. I'm trying to do it with food. I have to take some blood pressure pills because I've had a stressful year. But but I'm trying to do it with food. And it's amazing how using herbs and less salt and everything really does help. And whenever you can take it out, do. Because you can add flavor back in with other things and then with real salt instead of preserved foods, like just a hint of salt. I know that sounds weird coming from a chef because you use salt and pepper to season things, but you can really do a lot with herbs. Okay, so we're going to do 1/2 cup. I'm doubling it a bit, so I'm going to use 1 cup of chicken broth. We're going to use 5 tablespoons of light soy sauce. And I don't think I brought, let me see. Okay, well, I am notorious for forgetting to bring my utensils. So I'm going to bring about 5 tablespoons of light soy. You can, but I know what this looks like. So if you want to measure. I don't really measure. I should measure to teach you. So don't do what I'm doing. But I know what it looks like. I just forgot my measuring spoons. But if you
That's called measuring to taste.
measuring to taste, yes, and we taste everything. 2 tablespoons. Okay, so we're gonna use, I don't have Chinese black vinegar, so I'm gonna use really good balsamic vinegar. What we want out of this is the sweetness and the darkness and this is where you get that kind of gel quality because this is so nice. This bottle of vinegar is $32, but I've had it probably for 4 or 5 months, and I use it a lot. It's a really good, it's called Rubio. It's a really good balsamic vinegar. Well, I happen to get it in the North End, but I know they sell at the European market. In Hingham. They do sell at the European market. You just want, it doesn't have to be, I'm just telling you the cost of it because it is more expensive, but it's really worth it if you cook a lot and you like balsamic vinegar, because balsamic's also great on tons of other things. You just want one that's thick. You don't want one that's like, because it means that it's been brewed longer and it's aged, and you don't want one that's more water like a soy sauce. It's just not as yummy. So we'll do a couple tablespoons of this.
Did you say that was vinegar?
This is balsamic vinegar.
And it's thick?
It's thick. Yeah, see it.
Sour?
Oh, it's a little sour, but it's, I mean, I would eat it on anything really. I pour it over the chicken and eat it. There's a little sweetness to it too. The balance is very nice. That's why you have to taste things too. Like, I know what all this tastes before I'm making your sauce. You know, so if you're working with an ingredient that you haven't used before, or you're not sure about the brand, make sure you taste it, because if you throw it into your, you don't want to ruin all your chicken with your sauce because you didn't taste it. About anything, like the light soy sauce, I think is good too. The lighter soy sauce, and then we're going to use the wine. Here we're going to use rice wine vinegar. So this is about another 2 tablespoons. Then we have dark soy sauce, which Joyce Chen has a really beautiful line of products. She always has. Back in the day when there weren't much of anything ethnic at the grocery store, Joyce Chen was in the grocery stores, and her products are pretty good. So I like her dark soy sauce. And then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of the hoisin sauce, which is a dipping, glazing, and cooking sauce. This is a nice sauce too, and it's thicker, and it gives you a lot of flavor. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of sugar. Is it 2 tablespoons of sugar? I'm just going to use a fork here. Okay, probably a teaspoon. Okay, and then we're going to use 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And then Jonah, on this board, do you want to chop the onion? So, these are onions, peanuts. With the peanuts, I took dry, unsalted peanuts, like just from a can, Planters peanuts, and I just threw it on a ceramic cookie sheet. I like the ceramic cookie sheet when I'm toasting things like sesame seeds and peanuts. It just holds the heat and they get nice and brown like this. And they're going to add a beautiful quality to the finished product. So I'm going to have Jonah chop those up. And we're going to add the cornstarch. So cornstarch again, always add cornstarch to cold liquids. So also at Thanksgiving, like when you're making your gravy and you want to thicken it, don't do what my sister did one time. She was drinking wine and talking, and she dumped all the cornstarch in. I was like, is that my gravy that you just thickened with cornstarch? And she's like, it's a little bit lumpy. I was like, that's because you threw it in without putting it in cold water. So it was so funny. It was like, I really wanted to kill her. But you always put cornstarch in cold water or milk to thicken a sauce. And here, it's just going to thicken the sauce. But you don't want to use, you don't want to put it in like a boiling sauce or a hot sauce, because it won't disintegrate. It just gets clumpy and lumpy. Just so you can see, Jonah, I can move these products. Yep. And all these products are from, I mean, sometimes I got this particular Chinese cooking wine at Cam Jam in Quincy because there's a great Asian market and I love it there. But all these ingredients I saw today, this is a bigger bottle of pure sesame oil. This is actually from Japan. This is nice oil. I got that at Cam Jam too, but all these ingredients I saw today at Market Basket. So it's not. Market Basket has a lot of good international ingredients. And Big Y has gotten a lot too. All right, so you see how our sauce got lighter? So it's a little bit lighter, like a light brown color instead of a deep brown, dark soy sauce color. That's just because everything's mixing together. And then I'm just going to taste it to make sure it's adjusted correctly so it's not too sour or too sweet. It's nice. Maybe a touch more sugar. Just a little bit. You always want to balance your vinegars or your acidity with something sweet.
Do you use honey?
I wouldn't. You would? In this? Yeah. All right. His dad's Chinese, right? Yeah. All right. All right. Authentic. I was just worried about it being too sticky. You're true. You're right. You're right. The student teaches the master, doesn't he? All right. He's good. He knows his stuff, so we can listen to him. All right, so I'm just watching this because I never do it in the order I should to teach. Okay, we did that. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to get this chicken out of here. I'm going to do the stir fry now, and then I'm going to add the sauce because I want that to get a little crispy and a little bit softer, although we do tend to leave the vegetables al dente. You don't want them super, super soft. You want to be careful with sesame oil. If you're not used to cooking things at high heat, use vegetable oil because sesame oil can burn and it gets kind of rancid tasting. So you want to make sure you understand the heat. And the wok gets hot really fast. So if you want to test it, you just put a few peppers in and see how it goes. We need another minute for it to heat up. And we're going to garnish with that and that when we do it. Okay. Okay, this is ready to go. Jonah's beautiful peppers. Good job. Well done. When Jonah preps, I'm in heaven. Because everything is always perfect for our clients. Whoops. So I always add a little extra veg because there's nothing wrong with a little extra veg. It's great to have. This recipe does go a long way though. You'd be surprised. If you just buy like a little extra chicken, like for your family, if everyone's home, if you bought a little extra chicken, you wouldn't have to really extend it that much because of the rice. And usually I serve it with a salad. Okay, that heat's coming up nicely. We're gonna let that get hot for a minute. Now, I want it to get hot and I want it to start to get a little bit soft, but I don't want it to get mushy. So I'm not going to add chicken stock right now. I'm not going to add the sauce yet. I'm going to add the sauce in a couple minutes. Also, if I want to brown them a little, our little French sugar. But notice, I mean, I haven't used very much sugar at all. I just sprinkle it on top because I think it's a good accelerator without being too crazy. You could add honey there too, to your point. I use honey in a lot of dressings, but, huh? Yeah, that's true. True. Okay. Does everybody have a wok? Yeah. People say that to me. I never use it. And I say, well, get it out and try it because it's actually really good for sauteing, especially if you're doing like lots of veggies. And it's supposed to get seasoned. You wash it with hot soapy water, dry it right away, and then I usually rub some oil in it before I put it away. But don't be scared. But like I said, if you don't, just use a decent frying pan. You want something that can hold everything.
Did you say something about you oiling your wok when you put it away?
Say that, I take a paper towel, and I take a little vegetable oil or sesame oil, and I coat the pan with it. It just dries on it, seasons it. Yeah. You do that with a paella pan too? You want to season your pan? I'm just tasting. Okay, that's good. Okay. Now, I'm going to add my sauce. And obviously we just cooled it down so you don't hear the sizzle. And what I might do here, although I'm not going to do it yet, I might add a few little extra things, but I'm going to get that hot, and then we're going to add our chicken back in. But there's that gorgeous sauce from the chicken juice. Do not throw that out. That's why I don't adjust anything until I put the chicken back in, because that gorgeous runoff from the chicken is what you want. We can put that back here. Okay. You want to just keep it moving. We want to integrate the peppers with the chicken. You could, I got a little nervous about getting the heat up so high that it would create a lot of smoke here because I don't have a hood. So typically, if you look on like my website or Instagram page, my Kung Pao Chicken is caramelized a little bit more, the chicken is, but I have a hood that extracts, and I didn't want to do that here. So you want to leave it, I mean, this is going to taste delish, but if you want that outside a little more caramelized and the inside will be moist, just, you know, do it at a higher heat and wait to take it off. Get nice and hot. Okay, we're gonna be patient. Let's get our rice out, please. Put it, yeah, oh yeah, good idea. Okay, so this is our rice. I just want to be careful because I have a fear of walking past this and the whole dish going on the ground. Okay, so this is our rice, and it's nice. I've just kept it hot in a Cambro for you guys, so for you also it would be hot. But you see it's toasted. There's a little bit darker because I toasted it in some oil. And it's not sticky, like it's not sticking together, clumpy rather. It's just all nice and delish. It's going to be great as the base for your Kung Pao chicken. I'm going to put a little bit of these in because we're going to put some on top of your meal as well. But we want to add in that flavor of the spring onion. I don't add in the peanuts until the top because you don't want them to soak up too much liquid. They will be crunchy. And can you see what it looks like? Yeah, it's pretty. Just see what temp. Needs a few more minutes. So I'm gonna add a little bit. I'm gonna make a little bit extra, just soy. So sometimes we adjust the sauce and the seasoning, or we want to add a little extra. So I'm not adding all the ingredients. I'm adding some super flavorful ingredients. I'm adding a little extra hoisin sauce. I'm adding a little extra of the light soy, and I'll add a smidge of the dark soy. Now I think, you know how when you order this, sometimes you get it and it has a really thick sauce? I don't love that. So that's why I'm very careful about making it too jelly-like. So that's why you don't want to add too much cornstarch. I did not add the peppercorns just because I didn't know people's level of heat, so yeah. Okay. So we're going to add that. So if you want to get more recipes or take classes, I used to have everybody sign up and put their email address, but I have to get permission for you to get emails from me. So I just have you go straight to my website now. And when you go straight to my website, a box pops up and you can subscribe to my newsletter. And don't worry, I barely have time to write one, so you won't get inundated with Cooking with Abby, Cooking with Abby. You know, if I'm on a roll, you might get 2 in a row because, like, a day apart, because I'm like, I've actually sat down to do it, but otherwise, no. I'd like to say I'm on top of it, but my marketing assistant went to UCSB and I've been like, I haven't found another one. Okay, I'm gonna taste this. So my chicken is temping now to 170. So that's good. Like, we know the chicken's cooked. Jonah's got it nice and cooked for everyone. Good. Okay. So it's not as powerful without the peppers. So I would add the red chili pepper flakes. In full disclosure, I had them on the counter and I left them at home. So I'm sorry about that. But just normal red chili pepper flakes that you get at the store. And then okay. He's thickening it a little bit. That's a good idea. He's got good instincts. Well, I taught him. His dad is an amazing chef as well. He's not a chef like by trade, but he's an amazing cook at home. All right, so I'm going to start just dishing out some of the. So tell them what you did.
Mix corn syrup and the chicken broth, and then I'm gonna have it cook down a little bit more in here, so the sauce.
It's a little thicker.
Chicken a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's also because that's a great idea, and that's also because we didn't caramelize as much on the cooking, so it's not sticking as much as it would to the chicken. If that makes sense? Okay, so we have. Say that again? So sorry, my allergies are crazy. So do you think you'd make this?
I have a friend that comes and stays with me, and she'll make it.
Oh. It's good to have. We're going to put those on top when we serve it, because otherwise they get too mushy. That looks nice. That looks better. Well done. Okay, so it's 12. I do a lot of classes too that are like sheet pan classes and easy dinners and one pan wonders. Want to taste it? Okay. I'll put one in here. Is that better? That is better. It looks better. It's hot. So you always taste your food before you serve it, because you want to make sure. I also happen to always be hungry before I serve it, but you always want to taste it before you serve it to make sure that it tastes good. And so Jonah actually does a lot of events with me, and I don't have another chef working with me like me, but Jonah has amazing instincts, and at our events he often like comes up with something or says something, and I'm like, that's a great idea. And so it's great to have him, but it's great to learn from all people all the time, or I forget something and he remembers. So it's more the case that he's good. He saved our short rib tacos. We did short rib tacos that we were all like inhaling because they were so delicious. We did them for a party, and I had forgotten to chop the white onion, and he's like, we got to chop the white onion because it just adds the perfect, thing to the taco. So anyways, yes. And oh my gosh, he saved the day. All right, so now we're going to do, do you want to give everyone a napkin and a fork? They can pick out a fork. Just to bring you can touch the napkins. Just bring a napkin. It's easier if you do it like this, and then have them pick out a fork. Yeah. Oh, this is nice. So I'll just start with a table that has the utensils. I'm not playing favorites with anybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as you notice too, I usually I'll use a scoop. You use a scoop, so you measure everyone's out the same. So that's more when you're doing an event, so people don't get. I'm just adding a little extra chicken because we have it. Jonah, I'm just going to put these right here if you want to start with that table there. And then we can go left to right. And bon appetit. Please eat while it's hot. I know everybody always waits, but Julia Child always said, chefs, and it's true, chefs like you to eat when it's hot. Just be careful because they're hot, Jonah. Yeah. There you go. I also think this could use a little more garlic and ginger, to be fair. I did that with the chicken, huh? I know, I put it in the chicken marinade, but, so I actually always do add extra. Can you just cut a few more peanuts for me while you? More peanuts. But yeah, but those are just some, ginger always is great. Ginger's great for your joints too, and any issues with, if you have arthritis like I have or whatever I have. I don't know what I have. Let's see, do you have one? Sorry.
Thank you.
Waiting is the hardest part, right? The other thing we do sometimes, and I forgot to tell Jonah to do this, is we slice the green onions in slices, like kind of like spaghetti slices, that kind of thickness, strips, julienne, and then we cut them shorter, but not too short, and they look really beautiful on top of the dish too when you're serving it. It's hot, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You like it? Good.
This is a nice surprise, Abby. I didn't know you. I ate before we came.
Oh.
We were rushing to eat dinner.
Oh no, because everybody, I can't imagine like doing a demo and not feeding people, right? It's not very fair. Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So do you ladies have any questions at this table? Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, ladies, you've been very patient. Two more there. Switch with you. Thank you. There you go. Oh, these two ladies don't have it, Jonah in the back. Sorry about that. It's always about the wait, right? You're waiting for your food. Okay. There's I'll switch. You take it to the lady in the red. Does she have one? Wait, we need two more. Two more. Okay, two more. I've got two more. I love the peanuts, actually. Okay. Bon appetit. You want some? I'll have a bite. So awesome. You like it? You're welcome. Yeah, it is pretty.
I mean, would you recommend us to like cut the chicken smaller or this is?
I tried to cut it in pieces. If you have, you could cut it smaller, or I can give you a knife as well. Or, you know, people sometimes with chopsticks, they bite and then they take another bite. So usually like 1/2 inch to 1 inch chunks.
So it won't get dry if you cut it too small.
Well, you don't want to do it too small. Like this is kind of perfect. If you're doing something for kids, maybe just cut it after the fact.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So I don't want it to be dry. So
yeah,
this is the size to keep it open.
yeah. And the sauce will help. And see how the peppers, now they're soft and nice, but they're not too soft. Yeah. There's more if anybody wants more. I was just thinking I would love a goblet of wine right now. All right, while you're eating, not to be a Debbie, it's actually not a Debbie Downer situation. It's a great situation, but I do a couple classes. I do classes on how not to die, which is from the How Not to Die cookbook. It's not like How Not to Die, but there was a gentleman who wrote a cookbook called, well, he wrote the book How Not to Die, and then he wrote a cookbook. And it was because his grandmother came home from the doctor's appointment when he was a boy with high blood pressure, and she's like, I'm not taking pills anymore. I'm not doing this. I'm going to do it with food. And so as he grew up, he learned to cook from her. And she changed her whole trajectory with food. And she lived another 15 years. So she was like 60. She lived, 80, which I don't think is old anymore. But so when he decided he wanted to go to medical school. And when he went to medical school, he wanted the program with the most nutrition hours. And I think it's crazy, and maybe it's changed, but the best program was at Tufts. And how many hours of nutrition do you think he had? Because I think nutrition is the key to not necessarily just nutrition, but like what you eat, how you go through life. You can prevent so much by eating well. Does anyone want to take a guess on how many hours you get in medical school the whole time you're there on nutrition, on what people eat? It's better than that, but it's only 20. I've just been thinking, I'm not going to go on some rant right now, but I've just been thinking, there's like every time you go to the doctor, they're like, well, there's a drug for that. I was like, but we could do that with food. Like we could do it with food. So long story short, I teach those kind of classes. But that leads up to, we started doing this before, but my husband had been diagnosed with lung cancer on January 2nd. And our older daughter was getting married at the end of March, and our younger daughter was turning 21. And he was very lucky. He had a tumor that was caught early because of another scan. He had a biopsy and a surgery, and his surgery got everything. There was nothing in the lymph nodes. And thank God he had a clean PET scan and a clean CAT scan and an MRI. So it was super, super lucky. But what we learned is that, and it was robotic surgery, so they don't have to crack your chest open anymore. But what we learned is lung cancer is the leading cause of death in the world now, and it is 30% of people have never smoked a day in their life. It's environmental. So there's a lot going on. So when I'm telling you this, because we partnered with a cancer center at MGH where he was treated, and we're throwing a huge gala on June 3rd, and I'll put the information on the back. We're raising money for cancer care research and studies, because the studies are what are saving lives, and the uprate, like our dads both died of lung cancer. So when he was diagnosed, I was like driving around Norwell crying for a day, and I was literally in shock because he'd never smoked a day. He'd never done any drug. And I'm not the same person. So he like never done any drug. But anyways, I tell you this because they're doing so much. And what the doctors said and the research folks at MGH said is the money, unfortunately, you need to raise the money because the money is really helping. The research studies that are being done are changing surgeries week to week, how they use the robotics. And we're lucky enough to be in Boston where the robotics and all that, all those machines and those doctors, and on the South Shore too, are available. So we're having a benefit to raise money for cancer care research, but also for families, like to help spouses and children of patients understand, because we're trying to make cancer a little less scary because it's so prevalent, and give at least our community some resources on how to deal with it. So if you're interested, I'll leave them on the table in the back. But the classes are really fun. Yeah, so I have a Do More. We call it. My husband has a company in that. So this is so interesting. If you guys are you interested in like a cool thing about cancer research? Yes. So his company, he's in microfluidics, and what that means is he helps to make instruments for chemists and testing devices that help test. Like he helped with the vaccine, the rapid tests for COVID. He also partnered, they're actually two younger people. So the gentleman who created the EPT test, the early pregnancy test, and a gentleman who works for my husband's company partnered on the EPT test years ago. Then the sons of both those gentlemen work for those same companies, and they partnered on the EPT test, on the rapid COVID test. Then there's also a company now in the mix, and it's called Early, EARLI, and they expect to launch this month or next month a test to help you detect if you have cancer present in your body. So you could go then to your doctor and say, I don't know how it reads, so don't quote me on that, but it's all like early detection, and the company's called Early, to get you to the doctor sooner. So yeah, so the all this research and everything is so interesting, and the robotics is so cool. So anyways, if you're interested, but the classes, back to cooking classes, I ended up cooking recipes from this How Not to Die cookbook way before this, and it's been so fun, and people love the classes because it's a lot of vegetable based, bean based, high protein based, and quinoa and farro and things like that we use. So they're really fun classes too if you want to come join us. But I teach everything. I also teach, stir. Yeah, I have a little studio, and so it depends. We either in the studio or the kitchen, depending on how many people. Yeah, so it's fun. And everybody gets to eat. You get to eat a full portion. If anybody wants more, let us know. Well, are there any other questions? And thank you for listening to me about my Do More, but I just want to try to spread the word because I think it's important. And yes, there's on the website.
I have a question on the rice.
Yeah.
We typically make rice from the rice cooker.
Yes.
The raw rice. How do you make your rice with the other?
I'm told I need to get a rice cooker, but I don't know why I'm so stubborn about the rice cooker. Every Asian person, right, has a rice cooker, and I'm told I wouldn't be cheating. But what I do is I take either some sesame oil or some coconut oil. I put it in the pan, and then I put in this case, 2 cups of rice.
The one that you showed us?
Yes, the parboiled rice. 2 cups of rice, and I toast it. I turn it and toast it and get it nice and sizzling. And then I pour in 4 cups of chicken stock, or 2 cups of water and 2 cups of chicken stock. I do low sodium, and you want to hear it really sizzle. You get it really boiling and turn it off and put the lid on. Because it stayed hot until now.
Is the rice already cooked?
It's parboiled, so it's partly cooked. It's like whenever, it's partially cooked. Yeah. So it gets softer faster.
It's just on the shelf in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And how long would you say it takes to
20 minutes. So you don't leave it boiling because that will ruin your day. You turn it off. You turn it off, and then you just. I usually just push it back. I have, but you don't want it to burn to the bottom. So I usually just put it back, and that lid creates the steam and keeps it hot. And like I just made that at 4:30, and it's 5 to 7. It was still warm.
Have you ever seen brown rice?
Oh yeah.
I'm curious.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Let me know. I'm sure it could be. Yeah. That's how I cook my wild rice too, but you have to let that boil a little bit longer because wild rice is a little tougher. Yeah. But I know. I have all these gadgets and I thought, oh, I'll get the rice cooker. And then I'm so stubborn about the rice cooker. I don't know. I gave in. I know. I don't know. I think it's because I have the Instapot, I have an extra oven, I have the fryer, I have all this stuff. So I'm like, where am I going to put the rice cooker? You have a rice cooker too? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always say I'm cheating, and my husband's like, Abby, I've done research, and every Asian family has a rice cooker, so. Yeah.
But Abby,
Two?
I was intrigued when you say that you fry the rice. Like, what is the science behind that?
Well, it just, so anytime you add heat to something, it gives it flavor, right? So it makes it a little nuttier, a little, like, yeah. But you're not making it creamy in this instance. You just want, what? Oh, don't go science on me. I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't been to school in how long? What?
The Maillard reaction.
Oh, yeah, why don't you talk about it? Smarty pants over here in high school. I don't remember all the technical terms. I just know. It's like when you throw an onion in a pan, it releases the gases in the water, and the more it gets warm, the better it is. You're just adding flavor. Roasting vegetables, toasting the rice. Anytime you add heat, controlled, you're adding flavor.
When you use the rice cooker, you don't do any of that.
Well, you're foiling me with the rice cooker because I don't. And you wouldn't put oil in the rice cooker.
No, we don't. That's why I'm so intrigued when you say that.
Yeah.
What's the reason?
Well, this is probably more American way of doing it. I mean, there's a lot to be said for the white sticky rice too. That's really good. But this is how I end up making it because I guess I just don't. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get one. Now I'm on TV saying this. I'm gonna have to get the rice cooker. I'm like on some cable channel. Yeah, true. So he just said right, trial and error. So we'll figure it out. Would anybody like any more? No? Do any of you ladies want any more? No? The boys, I'm sure. Mystery boys who showed up for the cooking class. Who might have been landscaping and starving. I don't know. Well, any other questions?
Well, thank you so much. I learned so many different things today that I didn't know existed.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I didn't know you have to apply the oil to the wok. I didn't know that you're supposed to hold the knife onto the blade.
Oh, yep.
Or not to touch the blade whatsoever.
Well, you're not really touching the blade. Like, so with your knives, it's important that they're super sharp. And you are touching the blade, but you're not touching the sharp part of it.
Touch that metal part.
Oh, it gives you a lot more security. If you touch it down, and it takes 30 days to create a habit. So I would also say, if you want to change your knife skills or get better, YouTube does have amazing videos. And watch like a Japanese a knife skill video. There, as an example, or Jacques Pepin, or there's some really good ones out there, and you can get some. You have to practice. I just, I had to cut like 1,000 onions in culinary school, so you get pretty good at it. And you can't graduate until you. Well, like I said, the real cool stuff. One sec. The real cool stuff about the kitchen is everything is geared toward the real rules. So when I teach classes, I always teach the rules too, and it's because it's geared towards your safety, and then efficiency and taste. Because when you're in a really busy kitchen, you got to put out food fast, and you have to be able to chop fast, and you have to be able to clear boards and get chicken. You know, you have to get everything moving fast. So you have to have good practices, or it doesn't work. And Jonah did see that at the party we did in February. He said we had like 10 people. Yeah, we put together a makeshift kitchen in the basement of someone's house because they wanted to use their kitchen for the party. And there were like 10 of us down there. And I said, and we're in really close quarters. So everybody had to be really know what they were doing. So yeah, and it's fun to see that. It's fun to see it all and the food go out. It's exciting. What's your question? I use a whetstone. Yes. Or my husband, who happens to have some great device for woodworking, he will sharpen my knives for me, which is I like better, but I'll use a whetstone. They're you can order those as well and watch the video, but once you get used to that, it's nice because you can sharpen your own knives every week. And a lot of people don't. But a sharp knife, I have cut my fingers many a time, and cutting yourself with a sharp knife is also, it heals much quicker, and it's much nicer than like cutting yourself with a dull knife. There are kids' knives too you can start with. Like you can start with a 6-inch chef knife. You know, start her with a smaller knife for her hand, but have her learn to chop because then you don't have to worry because she'll have good, have her watch the videos. Model someone who has good practices. Yeah, it's called a whetstone. You can get them on Amazon. Yeah, it's nice. They're easy, and then you get like a block and you put it in water, and you do it like 30 times up and down both sides of the blade. It's kind of hard to tell you without showing you, but yeah, there's some really good videos, and they usually come with a instructional video with a stone. Yeah, that you can just Google. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to cook with you.